Okay, so hello folks. I did promise that I would do a review of this kit as soon as it arrived, and I really did kind of want to get on with it and make sure I was one of the first people around to review it. This is the latest limited edition from Eduard. I'm not even going to attempt the Czechoslovak name for it. Nazri, see if someone else can please pronounce that for me, that would be brilliant. But it translates as "the boys are back." So celebrating Czechoslovak service in Second World War. And this is the 172nd triple combo version, replying of course to the 148th Nazri kit that they released a few years back. Unfortunately this one doesn't come in a rather fantastic World War II kit bag, unfortunately, but it does look like it's going to be quite the little boxed set. So I'm probably going to have to change camera angles as we go, but we're going to start off with the wide angle, so obviously you can see this fantastic box art, which I believe is available as a poster. Unfortunately, again, not in the box, but still, really, really looking forward to this. So, as I say, Eduard 172nd, around the edges, the artwork again, with some information on the side there, in English and Czechoslovak. And on the far edge here, marking options. Now, here's where it gets really, really crazy. As you will see later on, these are some of the marking options. That's right, some. All of these here are only half the options that are actually in the box. 39 in total. You heard me. This one, of course, was supplied by my usual supplier, MGR Hobbies. Again, check those out on Facebook. And without further ado, let's get cracking into it. So, fairly typical of an Eduard boxing. Opens up with a nice sturdy box, which I'll put there, so I can see it later on. Now, most of the weight of this box is taken up with the paperwork. I'll get back to that in a moment. If we just pop this to one side, first of all. Because there's more of it. The main reasoning for this boxing is this. Now, this is a big, thick book. Some 100 pages in depth, working into all, again, Czechoslovak service in World War II for the Spitfire. Absolutely loads. Otto Smyk, all the usual people you'd expect, and going in later on to what happened to some of these, into being then press ganged into Israeli, Burmese service, that kind of thing, later on. Now, unfortunately, all in Czech. Now, unfortunately, I don't speak any Czech whatsoever, but I have been playing a little bit with old Google Translate on my S8, and it turns out actually it's relatively easy actually to translate it if you really want to have a good old read. Now, first proper booklet is the instruction booklet. Now, I'm not going to go too deeply into this, as let's be honest, we've all put a Spitfire together before, but very, very simply. As for normal with Eduard, you've got the starting with the cockpit, going in with inner walls and building up that sort of cockpit tub that they create, so you've got all the details, even in 172nd. Closing off then the two sides of the fuselage, again with the blanking plate if you're not going to use the aftermarket engine. Starting off with the wheel wells, closing the wings, lots of different choices, making sure you get the right ones because there are two different sorts of wing in the box. The two-part cowling, which is rather unfortunate, but again you can get a one-piece resin one from them in the Brazin set. We've got separate elevators here, and the tails, however, are one piece. so you can't play with those, but you can play with the rudder. 2-part bottom cowling. I don't believe there's an aftermarket way of cheating that. Slightly complicated radiators for the scale, but I can imagine the detail is still going to be fantastic. And in the undercarriage there, again, this time with Brazin wheels. Cockpit, masks of course available, being this the Eduard boxing. And fuel tanks and bombs if and when necessary. Oh, and 2 versions of slipper tank. Now, I know what you're thinking. We're missing something, surely. That's all the instructions. That's the information booklet that makes this boxing really nice. Where's all the marking options? Again, because there's 39 of them, they are in another huge book. Now, I know I normally go through all the marking options, but I'm not going to do it. Because there's 39 of them in ridiculously great detail. Suffice to say, there are plenty of both World War II and just after World War II options in here, mainly from Czechoslovak service, but a couple there from Burmese and Israeli service. Both this and this booklet here are both available from the Eduard site in downloadable, free-to-view PDF anyway, if you do want to go through it with great detail. This book, of course, not. If it's anything like previous releases, they're probably not going to release an English translation. But, as I say, not actually the end of the world. Right, so, I'm going to change the camera angles briefly, and we can take a closer look at the pieces. One moment. So, first up, small parts. Now again, as I did mention, this kit there is enough parts for 3 Spitfires in 1/72, so we won't open all of them. We'll just open the one. As you can imagine, the other one is going to be basically the same. So, how do we get into this one without going crazy? Obviously separately bagged, being Eduard. Ah, there we go. So, sticky bags. Sorry about the crackling. There we are. Let's take a look. See. I'm clever here. I can maybe even get us back in again. There we go. Right, so 2 sprues. This is can't see it. Sorry. This is sprue B. So we've got parts for the slipper tanks, undercarriage doors, tiny bits for the rudders, and chair there. And we've got the access door with the crowbar on. And if I can get into there and get it to focus, where are we here? You should be able to see differing versions of the instrument panel for use if you want to use the etched brass or not. Now, one thing I'm already seeing here, if you can see on these slipper tanks, if I can get it under the camera, where are we? Nope, wrong way. If I can get that to focus, you'll see some fantastic riveting detail on there, even in this tiny scale. I'm really impressed with that. Now, admittedly, at this scale, if you're not going to completely obliterate that detail, I think this is possibly an airbrush only kit. It really is that that fine, the detail. Again, on the undercarriage doors as well, on the far side. Again, if we can get that to focus on me, not on that. There we go. Just at the top corner there, you should be able to see the undercarriage doors by my thumb. And you can see some fantastic riveting detail even on these. And I mean, these are absolutely tiny. For anyone who's used to give you an idea of scale, I mean, if I get, you know, a pot of Citadel paint, these things are tiny. absolutely and utterly tiny. Why is everything backwards? Ah, that's why. There we go. I mean, we are talking minuscule. The detail involved here. Onto the next sprue. Sorry, that's the back side. We have the propeller, very carefully closed in there. Wheels, or at least the tires, although we probably won't be needing those because I do believe there are resin choices in the box as well. And then we've got a wing spar and the wonderful detail of the cockpit. Now again, if I can remember which way around we're going, there we go. And get that too. No, just wanted to focus on the stuff in the background. Come on, there we go. So wonderful wall detail there. There you go. For the inside of the walls there. Loving both of those. Absolutely loving those. Can we get to go back in or not? I bet I can't. Nah, it's not going to happen until later. Right. Next up, we have probably the big parts. So, three sprues in this pack. 3, 4? 4. Okay. One, two. No, I was right first time. 3. Okay, so these I can imagine are probably the parts that most people are going to be most interested in, because these are the bits obviously you're really going to see. And looking across it as expected, is some fantastic detail. I'm seeing no burring, no flat. Oh, I am. There we go. One little tiny piece of flash look. Just to prove it happens. But again, the level of detail on here is completely ridiculous. Now, I have the 1/48th version of this kit, and I think what they've basically done is just shrink the moulds, because the level of detail is basically the same. Even though this is a 1/72nd kit and therefore quite small, I mean, we're talking, well, how are we? I mean, I know this isn't the full wingspan, but we're talking probably about 15 centimetres with the wingtips. Again, like fuselage length, maybe 12-13 centimetres maximum. And yet the level of detail, if I can actually just get that in, and I really want it to focus on that wing. Can you actually see the level, all the riveting detail there? And it is all over these parts. Again, and try and figure out which direction I'm going. There we go. Over that wing part, if we can just get the light to hit all the rivets there. This isn't just fine panel lines. This is very, very fine detail. So massively impressed with that. We have sprue E, which has some of the elevators and tailplanes. Again, fantastic level of let's try and focus on it. There we go. If we can get the light to just flash against those tailplanes, you can just see all the riveting detail on those. There we go, look at that. Absolutely stunning. Again, absolutely tiny parts. We have some tailplanes here and different wingtips. Now, I didn't actually see in any of the instructions any of the need for the extended high altitude ones, so definitely be some parts for your spares box there. Put that to one side for now. Now, hang on. Right, so we've seen those, So, clear parts. We have, right, it's not good. 1, 2, 3, as again. So those two go straight to the back. And we'll take a look at these ones. Now, this one comes in a Ziploc bag. Go figure. Okay, being very careful because I can see already that one's been knocked off, I think. Has it been knocked off or is it actually separate? It might actually be separate. Okay. So, absolutely tiny little cockpit there. And as per normal with Eduard, even though it was put in the bag with the rest of them, that is stunningly clear. I don't know if you can actually pick up from that distance. Even in 1/72, there's very little in the way of distortion there, which is just fantastic at this scale. I mean, it's basically unheard of. And for the rest there, yeah, this actually proves there was some more boxings here, because we have the slipper canopy for the later mark Spitfires. I'm just looking for... interestingly, what we don't have, however, we still only have the one front. So if there was a boxing for a high altitude photo reconnaissance Spitfire, which of course had the smooth front, then we'd have the right rear canopy but not the right front, as it didn't have the strakes down each side and the armoured front to it. But overall, very, very fine detail as normal. We've even got little rivets around the very, very edges of the canopy there. Again, that's in 1/72. Incredible. So pop those back in there. Kind of a shame I'm going to pop that one back in, but okay. Try and be careful. As best I can. Right, so then getting into the smaller details, so let me just pick up the box. We have one other fancy little detail here. That's a little envelope with one of their limited edition details from the Nasri collection, which is a stamp. Little postage stamp there, which is pretty cool. Now I believe they're all part of an extended game as well. If you're buying like lots and lots and lots of these, I think I'm going to need that one. I'm going them in. Right, and again, I'm not going to need those. Again, we have multiples of everything here. So we have the usual die-cut masks, which of course could be fantastic, make masking much easier, or at least in my opinion anyway. I know some people don't like them, but they're there anyway just in case. And we have etch for 3 different options there. Again, if we just open one of them, I mean, realistically, we know what we're going to see here. It is Eduard, it's what they made their name on. But you may want to see actually just what's actually available there. So, if I can get that under the camera again, we have parts for the instrument panel, parts for the belts, and a few smaller details for the radiators, etc. So just enough to just bring it up from absolute bargain to really nicely detailed. Again, if you wish. Typical Eduard, there is all of the options in the kit. So if you want to go down the etch route, you can. If you want to go down the dry brushing route and paint up the instrument panel, you can. Again, in here we've actually got even more masks. Again, 1, 2, and that should be 3. But for some reason it's been dumped in the same bag as all the resin, which is slightly annoying. So if we can just point at that a little bit carefully, we'll see what we have. So we have some very, very nice resin exhausts. 1, 2, 3 again. And again, if we take a look at one of them, we can see some wonderful, wonderful sharp detail there. And yet, even in this scale, all of those are open. I'm not sure if you can actually see it or not, but they are, which is crazy. 3 sets of wheels. These are 1, 2, 3. Okay, all the small, all the we've actually got 2 different types. So they're all the smooth tyre. We have 1 of the 4 opening wheels and 2 of the 5 opening wheels. So again, you might want to just double check your references for the specific one that you're building. And we have 3 wonderfully cast little tiny tail wheels. Now, the tail wheels, I'm not too sure necessarily there's going to be that much difference in detail between these and the plastic, but even still, they're there in the box, so why not use them? A few people, again, of course, are a little bit frightened of using resin, but there are some tips there if you are concerned. I mean, it's effectively the same kind of thing as just normal injection molded plastic, but there are a few safety concerns, so always make sure you have a good respirator, good ventilation wherever you're actually are using them, especially when cutting and sanding. And of course, you can't use normal glue, you have to use super glue. But apart from that, realistically, you shouldn't be frightened of using resin, let's put it that way. And then last but not least, possibly the pièce de résistance of this kit, is the decals, of which there are just loads. I mean, I really can't get over this. As I say, 39 different options in this kit. Yeah, I know I didn't really go into too much detail on the actual markings guide, but mainly because I knew I'd be going through these as well. So, what do we have here? We have wonderful stencil sheet here. Looks like it's actually been printed by Eduard themselves. And we have every single little tiny word in there. Again, let's try and see if I can get that to, there we go, look at that, bang, straight away. Every little tiny word you can read quite clearly there. Interesting, this sort of wax paper they've got there that actually sort of semi-sticks to it. That's kind of cool. Maybe that's going to be the new version of this stuff. Again, another one there, it's the same sheet. And another one there, that's the same sheet. So full three full copies of the stencils. Then we have the sheet for all the side markings, etc., all the codes. Again, just trying to get an angle on that so that you can see all those. Now this sheet, however, has been printed by Cartograph, so it is typically amazing. Not really much in the way of carrier film, apart from perhaps on these. Again, I'm not sure if you can actually see them white on white. These are the after the war ones, but again, not exactly excessive either. You also have some for the our Finnish pilots as well. Rather different versions there. Again, by the way, when it comes to general sharpness and detail, is second to none. Some lovely, lovely choices here. Again, if you can see that one there on the side there, you can read right by my thumb. You can read Turf Club 2 easily. And the main sheet for the roundels, etc. Again, printed by Cartograph. To be fair, I wasn't expecting much other than perfection here, and that's exactly what I get. Reasonably glossy, perfectly sharp, perfectly in register. Especially when you start looking at some of the Czech roundels, of course, it'd be very easy to get these three offset, but no, they are perfectly straight, perfectly sharp. Decals for the Israeli tail markings, so no need to go masking those up. Sorry, wrong way. There we go. And again, of course, options for different people. If you prefer to use decals for instrument panels, the options again there. Although I think that is actually reversed. I'm fairly sure it should be a black instrument panel with white instruments, but still, never mind. Even on, you've got these little tiny Czech roundels here for the cowling on some of the World War II our pilots, and even they're perfectly straight. I mean, they'll look beautiful when they're in place. Really, really impressed. Right, so overall, as expected with such a kit, we have a set of 1/72 Eduard Spitfires, which, if you've seen any of the other reviews of some of these kits, such as the weekend edition that has recently come out, the Royal edition, which I do still intend on doing a different review of, there she is. Already the standalones, unbelievably impressive. I mean, admittedly, perhaps not for the absolute beginner. That would still probably be some of the MkIX MkIX, which again are very nice and perhaps a touch simpler. But when you talk about level of detail, if you're talking about what I would consider to be the premium 1/72 Spitfire, at least Mark 8 anyway, it absolutely has to be these. They are utterly fantastic. This boxing, whilst I think it's going to be likely to be a little bit rare outside of Europe, but if you can get hold of it at a decent price, heartily recommend it. You're getting a lot in that box and some really, really interesting markings that perhaps you wouldn't see elsewhere. So, and without further ado, thank you very much for joining me. Again, please feel free to like, share and comment. I always say at the end of my videos that the comments definitely help, knowing what you want to see next. I'm hoping actually the next review actually to be the Meng King Tiger, the sort of cartoonised one. So hopefully we'll see that next week. So enjoy and go get yourself one of these. Take care, folks. Bye bye.